Jim and Will. What have they been watching lately? They're husky, hairy, huggable homos. Movie Bears Podcast.
Hello all, and welcome to episode 513 of the Movie Bears Podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and along with my fellow husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends, we review films either current or classic on this show. And this week, we are bringing you something squarely in the current column, and that is Speak No Evil, the new suspense thriller starring James McAvoy. Excited to get into this one and chat all about this. But I'm getting a note that I'm breaking up. Okay, let's pause. Will, am I breaking up for you too?
No, nothing for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are both breaking up for me. I don't know what's going on. Plus, when
Jim,
when
your
music
video
played,
is
it was like really, yeah.
Jim,
Something's
your
not
video
right.
is like all crazy right now. Hey, everyone that's listening live. You're getting to see behind the scenes right now how the sausage is made. Maybe we'll go back and edit this out of the YouTube video. It definitely won't be in the audio version, or maybe we'll leave it just for fun. It looks like Jim has dropped out.
Yeah,
And
well, it makes
back,
sense.
so.
Yeah, when he said that you were chopping up, I was like, I'm not seeing anything. So yeah, we'll let him reconnect and get back in here.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to be brilliant again. I hope I can manage it.
You got this.
All right, Jim, you are back, but you're still a little blurry for me. Am I breaking up for you, babe?
Not at the moment. Let's continue and see if it goes. If not, I might have to totally reconnect to the internet or something.
Okay. Do you want me to replay the intro countdown and then come in from there, or just start over at the beginning?
No,
of the
just
intro?
start up. It's fine. It's fine. Just start up. I'll find it.
Okay.
Just
Right.
leave a gap and we'll do it.
Okay. Hello, all, and welcome to episode 513 of the Movie Bears Podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and along with my fellow husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends, we review films either current or classic on this show. We've been doing it for 12 years now, and I love it. It's my favorite part of the week, except for the weekend. Anyway, we have a big one to talk about this week. We are discussing the new suspense thriller starring James McAvoy entitled Speak No Evil. You've probably seen this trailer a bunch in theaters. It's the one with the little boy who's doing the whole cutting motion over his tongue. And then there's this super creepy silent scream thing that's the abortion video from high school sex class. It's really weird, but that's why it's a suspense film. Anyway, I am excited to get into this one and talk it through, but I'm not going to talk about this movie all by myself. That would be boring as hell. So let me introduce you to my wonderful co-host. Jim Pugliafico is with us in the virtual studio. Hey, sweetheart, how's it going?
Well, all right then.
I guess that answers that. I saw him roll his eyes when I made the sex ed abortion video comment, and I was like, wow, he's really triggered by that. But I'm guessing it must have dropped out for him.
Yeah. That's always the worst part because you can't play around internet and technology issues.
Right.
You just gotta do the best you can.
Yeah. Hey, live listeners, we see you. We know you're here. How are you doing? Talk to us in the technical downtime if you so wish. What's new? What's shaking in your world? We're super curious.
We always do plugs on our show, or not always, but a lot of times we do plugs on our show where we talk about some of the cool things we've seen recently. So while we're getting situated, anyone that's watching live, just let us know something that you've seen. Doesn't have to be this one, just that super interests you.
I'd love to hear. Jim, welcome back. Hello.
I am back.
Welcome back, Jim.
I toggled my internet. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I hear you fine, and you look great.
You look better.
You
Yeah,
look blurry now.
It's good.
Yeah.
Do I? I don't know what happened. My computer lost its mind, but it always feels better after you toggle it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I toggle mine off and on a lot, and
Yeah. It just
I get you.
that usually
Probably don't need to
clears things out.
probably don't need to re-record the intro. But if you
No.
just want to come in after I've said, hey, welcome, blah blah blah,
Hey,
Jim,
here I
go
am.
for it.
I'm here, and I'm happy to be here, ready to talk about a new movie we saw just a day ago now, but one that opened this weekend. So I'm excited to talk about it with you always. Like even after 500 shows, here we are. Still getting joy out of talking about movies together. So that's awesome.
I'm glad to hear that you still enjoy it. It's kind of crazy to think we've been doing this over 500 episodes now, and we're still having a good time doing it. But I guess that's the way Bears talking about movies goes. So we're down for it. Speaking of bears who help us talk about movies, we have the movie bear himself with us. Mr. William Lindis is on the show. Will, how the hell are you doing, friend?
Brad, Jim, I'm doing pretty well. Like it's always fun, and I say this a lot when we come on here, but it's always true. Like I always have such a good time talking about movies with the two of you, right? Like, there's so many different things. We're all three of us are busy people with our careers, our families, our relationships, our hobbies. Like, we are not people that kind of rest on our laurels. And so, of course, we've ambitiously also built a 500 plus episode weekly recording that we've worked into our schedules. But it's important, this is sort of downtime to just sort of process film. And it also helps encourage me to watch films that maybe I wouldn't have wanted to watch otherwise. So I love doing this. I love doing this each week with y'all, and I'm glad we're here.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I think I was doing a little quick math. 39,000 minutes is if you take 513 episodes times 75. So what's 39,000 minutes divided by 60? That's 650 hours. 650 hours divided by 24. That is 27 days worth of podcasting we've done.
You could start right now, and in 27 days and 4 hours,
dead.
because 4 new episodes will have come out by then. Yeah, you would be dead.
You'd be dead in about 12 days.
Yeah. It's just like The Ring, but with bear podcasts.
Oh my God. 27.
If you listen to 27 days of podcasts, you'll die. Oh, is there a ghost? No, it's just like
no, you just died
healthy. Your
body just gives out.
Yeah.
From lack of sleep and everything else.
Oh, goodness. Well, I can see we've already got several folks who are with us on the live show this week. Hey, everyone. Welcome to you as well. We're going to be talking about Speak No Evil, the new suspense thriller starring James McAvoy. Totally spoiler-free for the first 10 minutes or so, and then we'll give you a fair warning before we jump into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the film yet, don't feel like you got to navigate away. As long as you don't mind hearing some spoiler-free thoughts, feel free to stay and hang out with us. And then, we'll give you that warning when it's time. But Jim, Will, are you ready to talk about this thing we saw over the weekend?
Of course.
Yeah, let's speak about this movie.
All right. Well, then, here we go. Our discussion of Speak No Evil. All right, Jim, this trailer has been in front of so many movies that we have seen recently. I feel like I could recite this trailer in my sleep. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it already, but briefly, just give us the setup of this film. What is Speak No Evil, and what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you see a movie, you know that like all the trailers that there's going to be no more showings of the trailer in front of other movies, and I'm almost tempted in some cases to like give the movie an extra half star of review when like, hey, I give it a half star just to end all the trailers. But no, that's not really the case with this one. This one is Speak No Evil. It's actually a remake, I think, of a Dutch or Danish film that came out 2 years ago that I did not see by the same name, Speak No Evil. But this one is kind of written and directed by James Watkins, who's not a name that I really know very well. I think he directed an episode of Black Mirror and stuff. But anyway, the premise of this film is that a family is invited to spend a whole weekend with another family that they meet while on a vacation in a home, like a secluded home in the countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. This one has a small but really, I thought, effective cast. James McAvoy is in this one, doing a lot of the heavy lifting throughout the movie. He's in it quite a bit. Mackenzie Davis is in this. Speaking of Black Mirror, she's in our famous favorite episode of Black Mirror, San Junipero.
Yes.
And then we have some other actors that are really good too. Alex West Leffler plays Agnes, and Aisling Franciosi plays Chiara. I forget the name. I can't quite
Kira.
know how. Kira. That's how it's pronounced, but it's spelled weird. It's Ciara. That's weird.
It looks like an Irish spelling, maybe.
Kara. Yeah, and his name is Paddy, so that kind of makes sense, I guess. As Irish, maybe an Irish family, but yeah, this one is a very very solid psychological drama slash horror slash thriller. I thought it was very effective in what it tried to do. It basically it's a remake, so it didn't it's an original story but taken from another movie. I liked it. I don't think it presented anything we haven't seen before. We've seen these kind of it's not really a home invasion movie, but it's kind of the opposite of a home invasion movie where they're guests in a house and things start going sideways, and we'll get into all the whys and wherefores in spoilers. But look, I thought this was really solid. I didn't have any issues with this. It was like an hour and 50 minutes long, but it seemed to go a lot faster for me. And it moved right along. I thought the tension that this movie built throughout at least 3/4 of the film was fantastic. So yeah, I really like this movie. I think it's worth seeing. Again, another movie. I don't know if you have to run out in theaters to see it, but if you want to get out and see a decent movie, this is out there. Or if you miss it in its theatrical run, catch it on streaming or VOD, which probably will be soon.
All right, Jim, thanks so much for setting this one up for us and sharing a few of your thoughts. I know as we get into spoiler territory, you'll have a lot more to say, as will we all, I'm sure, but your table setting was magnificent. So thank you for that. Will, how about you, handsome friend? How did you feel about Speak No Evil?
So I had sort of a weird reaction going into this one initially because I really enjoyed the 2022 Danish film that was the impetus for this one. And it struck me as weird for there to be a English language remake of a movie like a year and a half after a movie came out. Like, it's not like, oh, this movie came out a decade ago or 20 years ago or whatever. It's like, this one went into production while the Danish one was still like, you would
out
like
there.
rent it as opposed to like, just like find it for free streaming or whatever. Historically, I've not really enjoyed a lot of these like English remakes of movies. I think one of the big ones with Old Boy from a few years ago is a pretty glaring example of one that just, honestly kind of shit the bed from the, from great original version to not great remake. So I had some baggage coming into this one. I will say that this one exceeded my expectations. I had a fun time with this one. Part of that is because, this this is essentially a six-hander, right? It's really about these two couples and these two kids, and all of them has to carry this sort of precarious weight that is really based around not just the tension, but around the tension of like politeness, right? Like this is a film where, the speak no evil isn't just about the tongue cutting, what have you, but about just the idea that we're sometimes so polite to strangers to a fault where we allow ourselves to get kind of stuck in these, bad situations. And that's, really kind of what we see play out here. I loved James McAvoy in this. He was very menacing, but also charming enough that you could kind of understand some of the stuff as that happens here. Mackenzie Davis is a favorite of mine. One you didn't mention who I think deserves some calling out is I love Scoot McNairy. He's one of those guys who he puts in work whenever he shows up in a movie, and he's one of those guys that I don't think he doesn't really get marquee a lot, but if you look at just his IMDb, this dude's in like at least one thing you've seen every year. In fact, he'll be with starring across Amy Adams in Night Bitch here in a few months when that comes out. So I will say I like the original better, and I'll talk a little bit about why that is. The first 3/4 of the movie, you mentioned kind of the tension, kind of lives there. The first 3/4 of the movie are, obviously some things get changed up, but there's a lot of similarities. But the film does veer pretty dramatically. We'll talk about kind of how and why. But I kind of like the original premise a little better. But again, I think that this was as far as these remakes go, a pretty solid, effective one. The tension is there, the performances are there. And even though this is in some cases sort of a slow burn, there's parts where it's just the characters interacting with each other and stakes very slowly in the background stacking up, as opposed to like jump scares and like, very obvious threats from the get-go. You never really feel as though the movie's wasting your time. And I think that's important for a slow burn. So yeah, I'd recommend this one. I had a good time with it. I think most horror fans will as well. I will also, but couch that with the idea of after you've watched it, go see the Danish one too. You can rent it on Amazon. Just go find it someplace. I think comparing two movies, especially made back to back like this, I think in and of itself is a pretty interesting experience.
It's too bad that the Danish one doesn't involve someone with their ears cut off, and that one could have been like hear no evil, and this one speak no evil. Like, and then like the German one that's going to come out, could be the.
There's a world where you could watch sort of like a movie marathon where you watch this, you watch Hush as sort of like hear no evil, and maybe like don't
breathe,
don't breathe. Maybe, or
A Quiet Place.
If we're doing See No Evil, maybe you do Pitch Black or something like that. I don't know. There's ways that you could make some of this work. So,
good.
There are real quick aside, and Brad, I'm sorry to interrupt your
You're
piece,
fine.
but there are actually 3 full feature-length films named Speak No Evil. We mentioned the Danish one in 2022, but there was also one back in 2013. Totally different story, different premise, not the same story, but it does exist. And I looked on IMDb. There are no fewer than 7 or 8 short films named Speak No Evil listed out there. So it's kind of crazy. If you're looking up,
it's almost like it's almost like it's named after a very common saying, from the last.
I know.
100
weird,
years,
right?
So weird. Hi, Miss Cora. I have a visitor.
Yeah.
She wants to be on the podcast, apparently. So, Will, thanks so much for giving your thoughts on this one. I'll be really brief because I want to save a bulk of the time for spoilers and just say I would recommend this film as well. I think James McAvoy, I've enjoyed him in these kind of roles ever since Split. I thought he was really, really fantastic in that. And Cora is stepping all over my keyboard. If I disappear, that's why.
Okay.
But it's great to see him. I was talking to Jim about this a little bit in the car last night when we were on our way home from the film. It's great to see James McAvoy like just so come into his own as an actor in all these different films. Like we've seen him be like skinny little stick bug Professor X and some of the like X-Men First Class movies. Now he's like this big beefy suspenseful like
Hot daddy
killer
guy.
question mark dude, you know. But he's played all kinds of different roles, and I know when James McAvoy shows up like in a cast list for a film, I'm probably going to be on board with it. And I was with this one. He captivated me throughout the whole movie, not just because he was in his underwear in that cliff scene that's in the trailer. So that's not a spoiler, although he is a very nice man to look at, but just his performance. Like you guys mentioned sort of that, like that charisma or that charm. And it's like, even when he's like doing like really creepy things one second, and then he's so charming the next, it's like, well, yeah, I could look past that like veneer threat thing he did because he's like giving me the wink, and you know, like I'd probably end up dead. But
I'll put down the box cutter. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely recommend this one too, especially because we've you know, Beetlejuice came out, but we're kind of like in a little bit of a lull for a couple weeks. Wild Robot is coming out. Transformers is coming. Like we've got some other bigger name things coming, but this is a great opportunity. You know, if you're looking for something to watch, especially as we're getting closer to like spooky season, like this is almost like a good precursor to that. Like, you know, get a little scary fun going, and I think you'll enjoy it. So this sounds like a recommend from all three of us. Take that for what you will. Alex in the chat says, haha, Brad is like, I can change him. I'll tell you this. Yeah, I would have a plan, not a concept of a plan, but an actual plan to change him through lots of sweet making out and, you know, therapy. I think we could get there. Anyway, guys,
And
are you
also,
ready
don't
to
forget,
make that?
Yes, I am. Just one more thing. Don't forget Scoot McCary. I know you noticed him in the movie, baby.
Yeah. Of course, absolutely.
Scoot McCary. Yeah, right off the bat.
All right, Will, are you ready to make the spoiler jump?
Absolutely. You know, there's a lot to talk about here.
Cool. All right. Well, then, if you have not yet seen Speak No Evil, we've given you our preliminary thoughts. This is the part where I awkwardly ramble to give you time. If you're listening live, come on back in about 20 minutes. We're going to do some plugs, put some things on your radar you're not going to want to miss. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., feel free to use the time index in the show notes. Go ahead and skip ahead to plugs and then come on back after you see Speak No Evil. That could be when you see it 2 days from now or 8 years from now, whenever, relative to when we're recording. Come on back and hear the end. But here we go. Spoilers for Speak No Evil are officially fair game. Guys, I got to tell you, I'm going to start here. Obviously, James McAvoy was very hot, you know, in his chonies on the cliff. But what actually got my attention right away in the film was that pool scene where they're at the hotel in Italy, and like the dad of the family has his shirt open and just this beautiful like hairy rug on his chest, and then we just see these big beefy legs come into frame, and it's James McAvoy, and he's like, "Is this chair taken?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's totally like a gay meet cute, like it's totally happening. Like the dad's gay and he's gay." And anyway, it was very hot to see that almost play out. But then he pulled the chair over to be with his family, and my dreams were crushed.
So Brad, what you're describing is actually a different movie, and it's a common mistake. You know, people get these two mixed up. You're thinking of Suck No Evil.
Oh shit, you're right.
That's the one you're thinking about.
Right.
Where it,
okay, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like so much about this movie was they kind of kept the subtext in place, and that was the thing I was most worried about. Right. this is a movie, like I said, kind of up front, this is a movie about kind of politeness. We've all been to someone else's house and like maybe they like maybe the couple that you're there, like they get into a small spat, or maybe just someone has like sort of like a house rule that is just sort of like, okay. And you don't say anything, you just kind of keep it to yourself. And it's sort of like, and yeah, maybe on the drive back home, you're like, that was weird, right? But you just kind of roll with it. Kind of we're trained to roll with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this movie really kind of leans into that theme. And I was so afraid that when they remade it, that they were going to just sort of stick with the whole like, oh, it's cutting out tongues and stuff like that. Even the trailer, that was like in the Danish one, that was sort of like a surprise
Huge
when you
reveal.
find that out.
Yeah.
And so when I see this in the trailer, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? That was like the mic drop moment.
Yeah.
But I do like they kept like there's a line that's in both of the movies that is sort of like I think the thesis of the movies, and they kept it, and it's good. It's the why are you doing this? Because you let me. And I think that's just so good that they kept that in there, because it really like just says, yeah, they kind of did. There were so many opportunities for them to say F this and get the hell out of there. Not just the bunny turnaround scene, although that's a big one, but also just several times where just things came up where it was just sort of like, yeah, we should bail, but they didn't. There were consequences for that. Those consequences were terrifying.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the trailer, and I as I'm watching the movie, of course, we must have seen the trailer 15 times altogether, and every time we made a joke out of like the kid, making the motion of getting his tongue cut off. So we know that happens or happened off screen in the film, and I'm like, wouldn't it have been great if they didn't reveal that in the trailer somehow? And wouldn't it have been great if it was like, because in the movie they play it up as, okay, he was born with a defect, his tongue is too short, he can't speak, he can't form words, and he's shy, blah, 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 blah. Which, right from the get-go, it's a bullshit story, right? Because you've seen the trailer. If you've seen the trailer, there's something really, really horrific going on, violent and horrific. So the movie's going to get there eventually. And to me, even though this movie did build the tension to this... There's something different about a movie that builds tension towards something is going to happen versus building tension and you don't know what the fuck is going to happen. You know what I mean? Which I think is a better scenario. And I just wish this movie had played it in that latter case a little bit. But yeah, Will, I mean, they still managed to build tension. They still managed to keep that kind of weird, awkward subtext going on about like two families getting together, kind of getting to know each other and their weirdness, kind of bouncing off each other. And you're like, something's not quite right. But then in the back of your mind, you go, yeah, they cut the fucking kid's tongue out. So right away, I'm like, that's not their kid. I can tell you that right now. And it's too bad. I think the movie would have been better for it. Now, granted, people who saw the Danish film would have known, but still.
Yeah, but you can't really you can't hold that against the film. But what you can hold, and honestly, you can't even hold the trailer too much against the film, because
they're trying to get people in the seats, right? Like, how are you gonna sell a movie on people being nice to each other? You know what I mean?
Well, but also the writer, the director, the actors, they're not responsible for the trailer cut. That's there are separate trailer studios that production companies kind of do that, and there is a need to make it sizzle, to make it like, okay, why how do I get people to watch this? Oh, this is kind of memorable. Let's have this, with the little tongue cutting out motion. But so you can't blame the filmmakers for it. I can't blame them. It's someone, it was outside of their control, but it does still suck though, because it really does sort of rob those moments and make it to where when you're that far ahead of the movie, you can still enjoy it, but there is something to be said for being taken for a ride.
Yeah. Speaking of being taken for a ride and sucking, what did you think about the dinner scene on the house on the sea, where they've had dinner and it's after dinner, and they're talking, and like it becomes clear that like the evil family, like they wanna swing. Like the wife is pretending to give James McAvoy, like Kira's going down on James McAvoy. It looks like, right? And we're like waiting to see if San Junipero girl and her hairy hubby are like going to join in on the fun. I was hoping that they would, and that James McAvoy and hairy hubby would like totally like have their little tete-a-tete, but unfortunately it went nowhere. But it was like super creepy for me, but also kind of like that hot expectation where you're at like a bear pool party or something and stuff's happening with a couple people and you're like, is this gonna like catch fire around the pool and like everyone's gonna be doing this? It's like, let's see what happens.
That's true, except in a movie like this, if they had emphasized that and kind of gone down that and kind of put some swinging elements in the story, I think it could have been seen at the end as kind of a negative commentary on being, swingers and sex positivity, because and that would have been cool because I'm totally sex positive and pro swinging. So I wouldn't want to see a movie like do that and then come in with all the violence and terrible stuff and people see that as a commentary. See, those filthy swingers, that's what they get. I think that would have been kind of bad.
I think the decision from a script perspective is pretty interesting, and I think it makes sense because really this is a ramping up of uncomfortable moments, right? Everything here is really based off of things that make you kind of go like, huh, that was not something I was expecting. And it's one thing if you and another polyamorous or what have you, whatever you want to call it, like a couple both meet up with the intentions of doing whatever it is that you want to do. It's another thing if that is not something that you've discussed within your marriage and to have it kind of thrust upon you and to kind of be put in an awkward situation in real time, right? And so I think that's what was so interesting here was I think they could have come straight out with like, why does that guy always seem to be flipping his knife? That's scary. No, it was like more like uncomfortable scenes. Like, hey, we're going to invite you to a kind of a sexual thing that you weren't anticipating. We're going to, get a little bit too drunk. We're going to, be a little bit too yelly with our kids. Just like things that we've seen. You've been in a Walmart and seen someone like losing their shit with their kid. And everyone that's listening to this has experienced that at some point or another, whether or not the kid was, pulling a fit or not. And I would imagine that in almost every situation, you just sort of like avert your eyes and look away and kind of go about your business, right? You probably don't insert yourself into those situations, obviously, unless things like get crazy violent or what have you, right? So I think that's what made this hit so close to home for me, because I think we've all been in these situations. We've been walking down the street and maybe someone walks up to us and starts a conversation with us, and maybe we think they're a little odd or a little weird or maybe a little dangerous, and we just try to no, I'm sorry, I don't have any cigarettes, I just got to keep walking. I really like that because it did put me in the situation of like, well, what would I do if I had just gone on this vacation to meet this other family and now things weren't quite what I expected? I don't know that I would necessarily be the first one jumping in the car and peeling out. I'd probably let a few things slide. I think most people would.
Yeah, just to be polite. Yeah.
What y'all think of them almost getting away from James McAvoy craziness, but they had to go back for the security blanket bunny twice, and they got roped back into it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was Chekhov's bunny, right? We saw the bunny early in the attraction to the bunny, or the attraction, I guess, or the comfort that she got from the bunny, and yeah, that was going to be a problem. You could tell from the get-go. They almost actually got away twice.
Yeah.
The second time they saw McAvoy try to murder the little boy by pushing him in the lake, where apparently his parents are dead. Right? He gave that
Well,
away.
Yeah.
at least that's understandable. Like they're going to save a kid that they wanted to like send the police to rescue anyway.
Right.
Right. But like Jim, not to pin you down, although I do love doing that. As a
Pin me down.
parent, if this was your 11, 12, 13, well, I guess she was 12-year-old girl, would you have gone back for the bunny? What would you have done?
Yeah, I probably would have gone back for the bunny because at that point they were leaving because it was uncomfortable. I can't remember. I think it was the sleeping in the bed with the kids
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
issue that drove them out, and that was obviously very awkward and very probably inappropriate to have somebody else's kids climb into bed with you. But it wasn't like it didn't seem like their lives were in danger at that point, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely would have swung back around and got it, even though we knew as an audience that no, it's much worse than that. There's some physical harm going to come to you. And then when they were leaving the second time, they were totally okay with leaving the kid there when they were leaving until they saw him pushed into the water. Right? They were. It's interesting. It's kind of an interesting thing because even the girl said, "Well, what about Aunt?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we're leaving. We're getting out of here."
I think.
And then they saw.
Yeah. I think their plan was probably like,
To get
okay, the kid will be okay for like at least a day or so. Let's go and get the police and let's, because they've got the photos on their phone. At that point, they probably thought they had time. But
right.
But
they
the
didn't.
bad family escalated things. Yeah.
Yeah. McAvoy always was ahead of them at every turn, pretty much.
Let's talk about that last quarter of the movie because I want to talk about it both in isolation and then compared to a little bit to the Danish one. So there's a certain point. It really happens. This is that turning point, right? Once the kid is pushed into the lake and then the gate swings closed and they stop. That's the moment, and this is 3/4 of the way through the movie where all the pretense goes away, right? Even up until that moment, they're kind of like waving, like, be nice, just keep smiling. That's the moment where the pretense goes away and both groups know exactly that this is going to turn into a fight for life, right? How did you guys like that kind of like that final quarter, like the much more tension, kind of like hiding in rooms in the house, kind of fighting off things, how did that part of the movie work for you compared to the suspense building parts?
Honestly, not as well as the building of the tension and kind of the subtle things that the acting of McAvoy and everybody would bring out. I enjoyed that much. It was much juicier for me than just plain old like scary action stuff, which was what that last 3/4 was. It was just hiding and fighting and shooting and I don't know, stabbing. And of course they brought in the other guy, right? The friend. Who, as soon as they brought him in, I'm like, he's going to be the first one to die. And sure enough, he was. But yeah, that stuff doesn't. We've seen that 1,000 times, so it's just a matter of how they're going to escape. I didn't expect the movie to subvert my expectations too much, and it didn't. In terms of like, oh, wouldn't it be fucked up if like the family didn't get to escape and like the parents were killed and the girl like became their new like
daughter,
accomplice daughter? Like that would be a fucked up ending to the movie. Maybe I don't know if that would have fully worked, but what we got was pretty standard fare as far as these vacation gone wrong movies go. I thought anyway. What about you guys?
I will say they subverted my expectations at one point. And their expectations born out of shitty filmmaking, I think. But there's this part where like they get the bottle of like Chekhov's 150 proof alcohol and they put the rag in it to make a Molotov cocktail, and they're gonna throw it up on the sloped roof to like make it explode and make the whole house catch fire, right? and they open the window and they get shot at. So she shoots down to give him time to throw the bottle. And I'm like, here we go. They're gonna throw it up on the sloped roof, and it's gonna explode, and everything's gonna catch fire. No, that motherfucker rolled right off the sloped roof like it should, right? Landed on the car below and then crashed and blew up. But I was actually, I was very impressed by that. I was like, good attention to detail. That's real physics.
Yeah.
But Jim,
they went through a lot. They went through a lot to set that up too. So like that's what made it even more of a subversion of your expectation, because they spent a lot of time setting that up, and then it's almost like comedy, actually, if you think about it. Like that's how comedy would be set up. Like this big thing they're going to do to escape, it just rolls off the roof.
Yep. But Jim, I gotta call something out. Will, this is funny. So we're sitting in the movie. We just sat through all the trailers. The movie starts up, and Jim immediately is like, "Fuck this movie," and I'm like, "What? What the fuck is the problem? We're 2 seconds in." It's the shot of Ant in the mirror in the back of the car as they're like driving down the road in the dark or whatever. And Jim's like, "You wouldn't be able to see yourself from the back seat. You would see the driver." And I'm like,
it's true.
That's the hill we're dying on.
That's movie magic.
Movie?
It's movie magic.
And you know why we didn't see the driver, right?
Because this is real parents.
Because this is the real parents driving, so we could only see the kid there.
Yeah,
that was
Interesting.
Like,
what is this bullshit shot?
I mean, that's funny. I'm similar. Like I think the action, and I wouldn't even say it was action. I mean, there was obviously some fighting, and but it was not like high heroic fighting. It was scrapping and trying to survive.
Mostly realistic stuff. Very realistic, like fighting for survival kind of fighting. Yeah.
The injuries felt legit. If someone took a blow, it seemed appropriate. And so not as good maybe as the setup for me, but I still enjoyed it. And again, I think Mackenzie Davis especially shone during that, because she was sort of I feel like was the most capable of kind of the people inside of the house, and it's not terribly surprising. She's someone who has been, I mean, she was, do you remember a few years ago when she was and the movie wasn't good, but when she was in Terminator Dark Fate, and she had to get jacked for that part since she was playing the Terminator from the future. So she's someone who we've seen play kind of these softer roles. She was she and Charlize Theron were in Tully together, which was more of like a coming of age dramedy. She's been an action star, so I now she's like a horror, I don't want to say horror heroine, but she definitely, I don't know, she's got range is what I'm saying. It's like she's now someone who I've seen in a ton of different genres and effective every single time.
And credit to the script for allowing that character to quote unquote flip the script on what we would normally see in that situation, where the husband kind of takes control and is in command of trying to get them out. Whereas in this case, it's the mother, it's her, right? Her character that's able to do it. And so good on the movie for doing that.
So now the comparison to the Danish one, this was this isn't why I liked it a little better. I think it was a tighter movie in that it was like 15 minutes shorter, so I was able to do more, but like in a tighter period of time. The ending didn't go on quite as long, and the I guess spoilers for the Danish version. The thing that they changed up was the McAvoy family effectively, like the bad guys won at the end of that one, and it sort of ended with them on vacation with the kid from the main one, the new kid that they've gotten, kind of doing the same thing to a new family. So because the tongue thing wasn't spoiled, and because it just sort of left on a, I don't know, kind of a more scary ending, I think it just sort of hit a little better at the end. But I
Do you guys
Um, movie I've
early
seen.
on in yeah. Yeah. Early on in the movie, there was a when the couples first met on vacation, there was another couple, like supposedly the boring couple. Were they
Hmm.
Danish? Were
They were
they like
Danish.
I wonder if
Yeah.
that I wonder if that was like I don't know, I didn't see the first movie, but I wonder if that was kind of like a filmmaking jab at the original Danish film.
I think
Maybe.
less a jab and more a reference. And the reason I say that is there are 3 writers on the 2024 movie. James Watkins, the director, and then Christian and Mads Taftrup, who are the 2 writers of
Mm.
the and director
Oh,
of the Danish one. So this was not a movie that where it was like, wrenched out of their hands. Like they
no.
had a lot of their input here. And you can tell, like, the scenes hit and resonate in a very interesting,
Mm.
similar way.
Yeah. Well, the good family prevails at the end. We're in spoilers. They get away. They take Aunt with them, and we hope they're off to a new life. I think the final note for me was just seeing Aunt bash the shit out of James McAvoy's head with a rock. I was hoping that the head was going to collapse and like splash blood everywhere because he hit it like 20 times with a big rock. But they didn't go that far. The head was just colored kind of
It was
a
pretty
little
bad.
red. So it seemed like they were kind of like pulling back, I guess, from the gore, possibly.
Yeah.
But that kid is going to be fucked up for life.
Yeah.
If he were to be real.
Poor kid.
Poor kid.
Yeah. But, I think one of the things that was nice about this ending is, that kid, the kid was responsible for saving his life and Scoot McNairy, Mackenzie Davis, like their life, well, by flagging things as competently as he did to sort of like sneak up, show the pictures, and just sort of, and then doing the killing blow. Like there was something neat about like, this kid's got a long recovery process, just mentally, but also like it's cool to see that he took his fate into his own hands. That was a neat way to see it.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think maybe that brings us to a natural conclusion to our Speak No Evil discussion. Unless y'all have anything else burgeoning to get out.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
spoken as much as I can speak on this one.
Right. All right. Well, then I would go ahead and close the show off here, but plugs totally are a thing on this show. But plugs, like we always have to make sure to get those butt plugs in. So this is the part of the show where we have a fun excuse to say butt plugs on a queer podcast, but also where we put things on your radar that we love, that we think you might love as well. And we're going to go to Will first this week. Will, what is your butt plug this week?
Yeah, so this is one that played at South by Southwest this last year, but is now available. You can rent it on like Apple TV or Amazon Prime. It's sort of in that like $3.99, $4.99 range. So it's it's a good little movie night in, cheaper than theaters. It's a drama that I believe Jim saw called Ghost Light. So this is and maybe you didn't, Jim, but I think I remember us talking about it, maybe. So this is a movie, you've got this, it's sort of a dramedy. I read someone describe it as sort of like Lady Bird, but for like blue collar dads. It's, this guy is a construction worker, and his daughter has been, she's like in high school. She's been rebellious. There's obviously something that's happened in the family's past that has been causing them some strain. And he's very pent up and, I don't want to say repressed, but, something along those lines as a part of it. But he finds relief through joining a local theater production's, production of Romeo and Juliet. And it helps him sort of makes sense of kind of some different things that have happened, helps him kind of deal with some stuff with his family. Yeah, it's very, very good. Incredibly good drama when there's some comedy in it because it can't just be like all weight all the time. And when that comedy hits, it's delightful. It's fun. It's refreshing. This is a very like life affirming movie without being schmaltzy. It's called Ghostlight, and it is just a tour de force of performances, themes, just everything works so freaking well. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, good
All
pick, Will. I
right.
did get
Will,
to see
thank you
this
so much
one.
for that.
Yeah, sorry if you can't hear me. I did get to see this one at South by, and it was one of those films like toward the end of South by where like everybody's trying to get to see it, and it might have like one screening left, and everybody's like readjusting their schedule so they can try to see this one. And I was lucky enough to see it. But yeah, I really liked it. Might revisit it now that it's out and gotten released. But Ghostlight is a really special movie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Will, thank you so much for what sounds like a double butt plug recommendation here.
Do it.
All right. Jim, what is your butt plug for this week?
Well, I don't really have a new plug, but I did want to bring up something we talked about last episode in plugs. Brad, you plugged a new animated Batman series called Batman the Caped Crusader, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And Will, I think you had maybe watched some of it and you're like, you want to hear what
I
I thought
had
about it.
not watched it, but I wanted to hear your thoughts specifically because I was
Oh,
really interested in how much your ears seemed to perk up the more Brad Winton described it. So I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had
yeah.
time for it yet, but I was just curious
Okay.
how it landed for you.
Uh, where I'm through episode 4. Brad might be a little bit ahead of me, but he's rewatching it with me, and it's really starting to hit its stride for me right around this episode. It seems like almost a jump in story quality. Like the first 3 episodes, it gets a little bogged down and kind of setting things up, and then boom, it starts to really hit its stride, both in terms of visually and story wise. And I'm digging it. I'm digging it so far. Now, granted, we're still Batman. It's still in that universe of Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon and Alfred, and but there's some things. It's a bit darker, as a lot of the Batman stuff that comes out now is dark. And so for me, as a kid who grew up on like the '60s original TV show and that original goofy as fuck movie, Batman movie in the '60s, this is the all this Batman stuff in your generation and later is way different, and I'm sure it stems from the comics, which I never read.
Mm.
But this one is I'm digging this one quite a bit. It's interesting, and I'm going to stick with it. It's called Batman: The Caped Crusader, and it's on Amazon Prime. Available on Amazon Prime.
I'll be checking it out when I have a kind of like when I have a Batman shaped hole in my
Yeah,
schedule. I will plug it with this animated series.
There
the
you go.
episodes are what, babe? Like 30 minutes long.
Yeah, they're like 27, 28 minutes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
So
glad to
it's
hear that you're enjoying it, babe. I know you were a little frustrated with the first 3 episodes because it's all like table setting and like world building, right, for this 40s noir Batman. But yeah, in episode 4, like things start converging and things that were set up start to pay off a little bit, and that's always a good thing. And Jim, I actually have good news for you. I had only gotten through episode 4 when I plugged it last week on the show. So
oh
I haven't
cool.
seen anything from here on out. So
Oh
we
great.
can experience it for the first time together.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I think Will, more than just being a little frustrated with the table setting, I think I'm usually okay with that. My issue was where is my character hook gonna be?
Mm,
Like, who am I gonna kind of like as a character? And now, granted, that doesn't mean they have to be a quote unquote likable character. They just have to be a character that's very interesting complex. They can be villains, whatever, but somebody that I want to see on the screen and in the story. And we're starting to get that now in episode 4.
Rock
All right.
on.
I'm in here for it.
All right. Well, we'll see if the Batman Dark good times, it feels weird to say that, continue, but hopefully they will. For my butt plug this week, it's actually a movie we talked about a few episodes ago. Came out in theaters in June, but I'm bringing up it now because it is available to rent or buy right now. And I didn't realize that until I fired up Apple TV and I was like, oh my God, this movie, it's right there. But it's also coming to Disney Plus on September 25th. Now, I would plug it next week, but we're actually off next week. We got some things going on. So just keep in mind that Inside Out 2, if you haven't seen it yet, is coming to Disney Plus on the 25th. Or if you're like me and you just want to own it and add it to your own personal collection, you totally can do that as well. Or if you want to rent it, feel free. But honestly, I'd probably just wait the week until it's on Disney Plus if you subscribe to that. But the movie is incredible in so many different ways. I've heard from a lot of people that they were like, well, the trailer really looks dumb and I love the first one, but the trailer didn't make me want to see this one. I'll wait for Disney Plus. Well, here's your chance, folks. September 25th. Check it out. I'd love to hear what you think. It's probably my favorite movie of the year, guys. I'm looking at my letterbox, and I think it's right up there at the top. So I know that there's a lot of different movies coming out, and I also know, Jim, to your point in our private chat, there's a little bit of behind the screens buzz about some things that happened, with like Crunch and how the movie was made and how it maybe handled some like queer themes, but it's a really amazing film, and I hope you check it out and you enjoy it. Alex is such a fun movie. Alex, absolutely agree. Alex also says that we need butt plugs Movie Bears podcast merch.
Oh, I guess I'll start. I'll play around with some designs over the next couple weeks and just sort of see if anything fun pops out.
Pops out. There we go.
Or doesn't.
The mark of a good butt plug.
Yeah.
It goes in and doesn't come out.
It doesn't just pop out. Right. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, as I mentioned, we are off next week relative to when we're recording, but we'll be back with you for a double feature coming back on September. No, that's October 1st.
October 1.
My God, this year is flying by. October 1st, 2024, we're going to be reviewing Transformers 1 and the Wild Robot. So it is going to be a whole lot of roboting up in this thing, y'all. Looking forward to that. Go see those films. Come on back prepared. But in case
we had a lot of roboting in this episode, so I'm ready.
Technical issues, gotta
Yeah.
we made it through. Anyway, in case people want to chat with us between now and our robotathon on October 1st, Jim, where can folks catch up with you online?
I'm on Letterboxd. That's where you'll find you can go just check out my movie ratings and some reviews. I'm my screen name there is at JJP Out West, my initials and the words Out West, so JJP Out West, and you can find me also on Facebook under my real regular name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right, thanks, babe. Will, how about you, friend?
All right, find me on Facebook. Look for William Lindis. Give me a follow. That's where I post stuff that's more about like my personal life and kind of just the adventures that I go on and all sorts of different things there. You can also find me on Letterboxd. I'm the Movie Bear there. This is a good time to follow me. I'm going to be at Fantastic Fest this next week.
Yes.
Covering all of the new exciting genre, so action and thriller and horror and suspense and wild animation films that'll be coming out over the next several months. So give me a follow on Letterboxd if you want to get a sneak preview of some of the things that you might want to look forward to in theaters over the next few months.
All right.
A little bit
well,
jelly,
thanks so much.
Will. I'm a little jelly of
I can't
your
wait to do it
Fantastic
again with
Fest
y'all.
coming up.
Yes. So looking forward to getting back there at some point for that, for sure. And we might be living there at some point. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But it would be great to get back there for sure. Folks, you can find me on Facebook. Look for Brad Harris. I'm the one who does not have the Confederate flag behind him. Thank God. You can also find me on Letterboxd at iBradPro. It's like iPad Pro, but like with my name, because it's Brad and iBrad was taken, so I figured iBrad Pro was better. Anyway, it's that's my screen name, however dorky it may be. Feel free to look at my ratings and reviews. They're not super in depth, but it is how I keep track of every movie that I have seen, and I'm so glad we're getting close to December. We're getting close to the end of the year here. We're like a week and a half away
We are
from
there.
October.
It is
right?
around the corner. It is lurking in the shadows, ready to snatch you. So
yeah, it is. Which means we're coming into like, Oscar season and our 13-year anniversary and like all the things. It's like the slingshot at the end of the year that propels us into the new year. So lots coming up, lots going on. But listeners, as ever, we love you very much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Alex, great hanging out with you throughout the show today. We had some other folks as well. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're listening to the magic of digital tape delay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., we'd still love to hear from you as well. Find us on X at MB Podcast or on Facebook. Just look for Movie Bears Podcast. Drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on Speak No Evil or any of the other films that you've seen you want to talk about. We'll talk back at you. Otherwise, have a good one, and we will see you in a couple of weeks for The Wild Robot and Transformers 1. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
bye.
Bye-bye.